The morning air at Fort Granite was sharp and cold, the kind that sliced through weak resolve and exposed everything a soldier tried to hide. The parade ground stretched wide and unforgiving, rows of recruits standing rigid in formation as boots aligned with military precision. Faces were stiff, eyes forward, jaws clenched. This was inspection day, the day reputations cracked or were forged. Among the sea of identical uniforms stood one figure that didn't quite blend in. Private First Class Elena Ward. She stood straight, shoulders squared, chin lifted just enough to show confidence without arrogance. Her uniform was clean, pressed, boots polished to regulation shine, but the inspectors didn't see polish first. They saw a difference. She was smaller than most, lean, quiet, a woman in a place that still pretended it had no biases, even though every unspoken glance said otherwise. The inspecting officer moved down the line with a clipboard, stopping abruptly in front of her. "Your rifle sling is misaligned," he snapped. Elena glanced down, then back up. "Sir, regulation allows." "Don't quote regulation to me," he cut her off. "You failed inspection." The word failed echoed louder than the command bells. A few recruits beside her shifted subtly, relief mixed with pity. Another woman not making the cut. Another statistic. The officer scribbled something down and moved on. Elena didn't move, didn't argue, didn't flinch, because she had learned long ago that silence could be louder than protest. What no one on that parade ground knew was that Elena Ward had survived places where inspections didn't exist, where mistakes weren't written on clipboards but carved in stone. She had been to Iraq, and not as support, not as logistics. She had been there as a sniper. General Robert Hale watched from the elevated platform, hands clasped behind his back, eyes scanning the formation with the detached discipline of a man who had seen too many soldiers come and go. His uniform bore decades of service, ribbons stacked like chapters of history across his chest. He hadn't planned on attending recruit inspection that morning. Paperwork had dragged him here, nothing more. But something about the stillness of the formation caught his eye. Then he saw her, not because she failed, because she didn't react. Most recruits, when failed, showed it. Anger, fear, humiliation. Their bodies betrayed them before their faces did. But hers didn't. She stood as if nothing had happened, eyes locked forward, breathing controlled, posture unchanged. General Hale felt a faint tightening in his chest. That posture, that stillness. He had seen it before, years ago, under a blistering Iraqi sun, when silence meant survival and movement meant death. He leaned slightly forward. "Who is that?" he asked quietly. An aide beside him glanced down at a tablet. "Private First Class Elena Ward, sir. New intake. Prior service records classified." Hale's jaw tightened. Classified. That wasn't common for recruits. The inspection continued, but Hale's attention stayed fixed. As the formation was dismissed, recruits broke ranks. Some whispered. Some laughed nervously. Some complained. Elena didn't. She walked away alone. That night, Elena sat on her bunk, helmet resting between her boots, fingers loosely laced together. The barracks hummed with chatter, stories from home, complaints about food, jokes meant to hide nerves. She said nothing, because noise had once gotten people killed. Her mind drifted back, uninvited, to a rooftop in Fallujah, to the weight of a rifle that felt like an extension of her bones, to the voice in her earpiece, calm, measured, steady. Winds shifting. Wait. She had waited. She always waited, because patience had saved lives. She didn't know the voice belonged to then Colonel Robert Hale. She only knew he trusted her. And in war, trust was rarer than ammo. A knock echoed through the barracks. "Private Ward. Report to command." Murmurs followed her as she stood. What did she do? Did she mess up already? First week and already in trouble. She walked without hesitation. The command office was quiet, dimly lit. Flags stood rigid in corners like silent witnesses. At the far end of the room stood General Hale. Alone. He turned as she entered. "Private Ward," he said evenly. She snapped to attention. "Sir." At ease. She relaxed, but only slightly. He studied her face, not with authority, but with memory. "Where did you learn to stand like that?" he asked. She didn't answer immediately. "Sir, field." His eyes narrowed. "Which field?" "The kind where standing wrong gets people buried, sir." Silence stretched between them. Slowly, Hale walked closer. "Take off your cover." She obeyed. The scar above her right eyebrow caught the light. Hale inhaled sharply. He knew that scar. He had watched a medic stitch it while mortars fell close enough to shake dust from the ceiling. "You were Night Fox," he said quietly. Her breath caught for just a second. "Yes, sir." The room felt suddenly smaller. "You saved my men," Hale said. "More than once." Elena's voice was calm. "I did my job." "You disappeared after the mission," he continued. "No farewell. No commendation ceremony." "I was ordered to," she replied. Hale shook his head slowly. "And now you're here." Failed inspection. She didn't defend herself. Didn't explain. Didn't ask. He exhaled through his nose, something between anger and disbelief. "Do you know why I came to this base today?" "No, sir." "Because Command wanted to understand why our best assets keep walking away quietly." He looked at her, really looked at her. "You didn't fail inspection," he said. "Inspection failed you." Her eyes didn't soften, but something inside her did. The next morning, the base buzzed with rumors. A recruit pulled from barracks by a general. A failed inspection overturned. Files reopened. By noon, officers whispered. By evening, legends stirred. Elena stood once more on the parade ground, this time before the full command staff. Her service record had been declassified, partially. Enough. Shots taken from impossible distances. Targets neutralized without collateral damage. Civilians escorted out under fire. Entire units saved because one woman waited, breathed, and pulled a trigger only when it mattered. General Hale stepped forward. "Private First Class Elena Ward," he announced. "From this moment forward, your failure is revoked. Your rank is restored. And your legacy recognized." The recruits watched in silence. Not because she was loud, but because she never had been. She returned to the barracks that night to different looks. Respect. Awe. Fear. She sat on her bunk again. Same position. Same silence. But now, her story was no longer invisible. And somewhere beyond the base, thousands would soon hear it. The recognition did not change Elena Ward's habits. It didn't soften her stride or slow her mornings. She still woke before reveille, still ran while the base slept, still cleaned her rifle with the same care a surgeon gave a scalpel. Fame, if it could even be called that, was noise, and noise had no place in survival. But the base had changed. Where once eyes slid past her, now they followed. Where once instructors dismissed her, now they measured their words. Recruits whispered her name at night like a rumor that walked. Night Fox. Elena ignored it all, because the past had a way of catching up when you let it breathe. And it did. 2 weeks after the inspection reversal, General Hale summoned her again. This time, not to command, but to a room that smelled faintly of old maps and burned coffee. The walls were lined with photographs. Units long disbanded, men long buried, missions long denied. Hale didn't stand when she entered. He gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit," he said. She did. "I won't insult you by pretending this is about training," Hale began. "You don't need it." She said nothing. "There's a unit being reactivated," he continued. "Off the books. Same philosophy as before. Precision. Silence. Zero margin for error." Elena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "I'm done with that life, sir," she said calmly. Hale nodded. "I know. That's why I'm asking, not ordering." He slid a thin folder across the table. She didn't touch it. 2 weeks ago, Hale said, a convoy was hit outside Mosul. Same signature as the cell you dismantled years ago. Same patterns. Same patience. That got her attention. Slowly, she opened the folder. Photos. Coordinates. A satellite image marked with a familiar symbol. A crescent scratched into concrete. Her fingers stilled. "They're back," she said. "Yes," Hale replied. "And they're smarter." Silence settled between them. "You trained half the doctrine they're using," he added quietly. "They learned from watching you." Elena closed the folder. "I don't miss the killing," she said. "But I miss the people who didn't make it back because we stopped too early." Hale leaned forward. "I won't lie to you. If you go back, there's no parade. No headlines. No guarantees. She met his eyes. There never were. The deployment was quiet. No ceremony. No farewell speeches. Just a transport plane humming through the dark. The team was small, 6 operators, handpicked. Each knew her reputation, but treated her like any other asset. That was how she preferred it. In Iraq again, the air was heavier, thicker with memory. The city had grown, changed, rebuilt itself on bones. But some rooftops never forgot. Her rifle felt familiar in her hands. Comforting. Deadly. She lay prone on a building overlooking a narrow street. Breath slow, heartbeat synced with the city's distant hum. Her scope traced shadows, doorways, windows. Then she saw it. A figure marking the wall. The crescent. Her finger rested outside the trigger guard. Wait. She waited. When the shot came, it was perfect. The team moved. One by one. Targets fell, not in chaos, but in silence. Exactly how she taught it. Exactly how it had once saved lives. But this time, the enemy adapted. A sniper around cracked past her position, shattering concrete inches from her face. She rolled, heart steady. Contact. Rooftop east, she whispered. Another shot. Closer. She tracked the source. Then she froze. The shooter's stance. The timing. The discipline. This wasn't just someone who learned from her. This was someone she trained. Her former spotter. A man she thought dead. Her breath caught for the first time in years. The duel stretched across rooftops, each waiting for the other to slip. Minutes passed like hours. Then she did something unexpected. She stood. Just enough. A decoy. The shot came. She fired back. Silence. The body fell. When she reached him, his eyes were still open. Recognition flickered. "Night. Fox," he whispered. She closed his eyes. "I waited," she said softly. The mission ended at dawn. The cell dismantled. No casualties. Again, back at base, Hale read the report without surprise. He had always known. When Elena returned stateside, she declined further operations. This time, command didn't argue. She became an instructor, not on paper, but in influence. Teaching patience. Teaching restraint. Teaching the hardest lesson of all. That power meant knowing when not to pull the trigger. At graduation months later, recruits stood straighter. Listened harder. Thought deeper. Because legends didn't shout. They stood quietly at the back and let the truth speak. Elena watched them go, then turned away from the parade ground for the last time. Her war was done. Her legacy wasn't.